Today on Success Talks, we are joined by a really fantastic person. His name is Darian Sandy. He's a performance poet, an artistic director, creative writer, teaching artist, and an innovative thinker. Welcome to Success Talks, the podcast. This is the podcast where we dive deep into our guests' minds to get all of their hints, tips, and secrets of how they attain and maintain success at the highest level. Welcome to the podcast. This episode is sponsored by Polish Club by Jodes. They are located in the Malabar area, Trinidad. They specialize in manicure, pedicure services, and acrylic services also. For more information about their services, you can visit their Instagram page at polishclub_by_Jodes or contact them at 389-5106 for more information about their services. Welcome to Success Talks, the podcast, Darian Sandy.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Allow me first to dive right into it. Can you give our listeners and viewers a brief history of yourself up to this point?
Well, I said before, I am Darian Sandy. I'm a performance poet. Grew up in Maloney. Boyhood days were filled with playing in the road. I was the child that used to play in the road a lot. My two parents were educators, because I mean the role of educator never really stops. And my brother and sister, they were very academically inclined. And while I was academically inclined, I had a large chunk of adventure. I had an adventurous spirit inside of me. So I used to be out on the streets, in the road, play basketball, football, cricket, sometimes on the same day, back to back to back. Yes. You know, back then it didn't have, right now if you look out in the road, there's so many cars, but back then people didn't have cars and that kind of thing. So we used to be playing out in the streets right through. I attended a government primary school. I had female teachers from first year straight up. And then I went to St. Mary's College and then the University of the West Indies. I was at the University of the West Indies in 2009, September, because I discovered spoken word poetry. Now, when I was just rolling back to my CIC Form 6 days, two literature teachers, Miss Buddha and Paul and Miss Shim, they exposed me to the arts in a kind of way. I was asked to direct a play called The Glass Menagerie. Okay. And that was my first taste of the arts and that level of creativity. And I think that is what would have pushed me eventually to study English language and literature at UWI, and then further do my MA in literatures in English. Yeah. So that is the history there. I met spoken word in UWI at an event called UWI Speak, which was a critical part of the spoken word poetry scene and a critical part of the history of spoken word poetry in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay. And I was given the opportunity by Milka Sanatan to perform once. My first performance, I jumped out against Mohammed Muakil, who's one of the legends, and he sings with some collective now. So I wrote a parody to one of his poems, and I performed it, a big battle off, and my friend was telling me, don't do that, Mohammed, don't mash up thing. I say, all right, in case he do that, I'll write another poem. So if he come and respond to the first poem, I have a next one here song there. Yes. And so said, so done. He responded to the first one, and then I responded as well. Mm-hmm. That is how I really set my mark, my footprint in the spoken word world.
Okay, great. So I understand that where you started in the community of Maloney and all these things. And I am from the community of Laukata, and we understand also that our both communities are similar in regards to career paths. You know, the dominant career paths coming out of the community of Laukata and Maloney would be some of sports or the educational background or the financial institution. You will more hear person, or even some person will want to become lawyers. You will hear these things, or in the medical field. And can you give us a little more depth inside where the passion was formed inside of you to become a performance poet? Because I know it would have started way before you go into the University of the West Indies.
Yeah. Growing up in Maloney, we used to attend the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We still attend there. My mom was very active in church in terms of, she was the youth leader. Okay. So we were always involved in the activities. We had to be front and center and doing different things. So in church, I used to sing, act, preach, pick up offering, whatever it was.
Yes, making yourself useful.
Yeah, you had to be involved.
Yes.
In addition to that, my father, we used to have Friday night recitations of Psalms 119, which is the longest chapter in the Bible, right? So we used to have to learn a certain amount of verses every week. And Friday night, my father picking you up in that. So you had to find time to learn and memorize that. And looking back at all these things and my mother's interest in creative arts herself, in terms of us as good readers, enter reading competitions, chorus speaking competition, whatever.
Okay.
So the foundation was being laid very early, even though I didn't know it, right? It was being laid very early to where I am today, in terms of just being engaged in everything. And the skills you learn from being part of all these different niche communities within the larger community of Maloney. You just learn to interact with a wide range of people. So now I have the skill where I could write poetry for anybody at any time. And it's not that a matter of I faking it to make it, but it's a matter of I have been exposed to so many different kinds of things that I'm able to tap into this community, tap into that, because I know I am made up of so many different things. So that is really where the foundation is in terms of me as a performer. And because a performer, at the base of it, a performer is somebody who has conversations with people on a regular basis, you and the audience going back and forth.
Okay.
If you're performing something that nobody wants to hear, and you wouldn't really go anywhere, right?
Yes.
The content has to be relevant to the people,
yes.
As a spoken word performer.
Yes, correct. And as you mentioned spoken word, I was just about to ask you that question there for you to distinguish the two between spoken word and performance poetry. Because correct me if I'm wrong there. I want to give an estimate within the last, let's say the last 5 years, spoken word have came to the forefront in Trinidad and Tobago. Before you would not have heard of it to this large extent, where you will have a lot of competitions going on, a lot of events going on. Can you give us, the reason or the cause of, why persons have turned their attention to the spoken word now and the poetry now, presently in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah, the history of spoken word poetry is rich. If we go back as far as the 1970s, we had practitioners such as Abdul Malik, and spoken word was closely connected to the Black Power riots, and it was an art form of revolution. Right? So when the spoken word started in UB Speak, obviously it was this underground thing, because even in school, I wouldn't teach you about the Black Power riots, because something about that became a taboo thing to hide away from Trinidad's history. So the spoken word has been part of that, and rap so has been part of that. All those things started to disappear as well from being mainstream. It's not soca, it's not something that'll necessarily make you feel good, so let's put it under the carpet.
Yeah.
Now in the University of the West Indies, Mohammed Muakil, as I mentioned before, started UB Speak because he saw it fit that this sort of discourse needed to be brought into a space of intellectual thinkers. At that point, gates just opened up. So the population in UB was growing significantly.
Okay.
Now, when a young man by the name of Amilcar Sanatan took over UB Speak, he brought a different kind of perspective, because Amilcar Sanatan was the party goer, the cool youth with dreads in his head, but he was very, very intelligent. He is very intelligent and well-read. So the ability to mix the academics with popular culture was Amilcar Sanatan, and he changed UB Speak into that. And UB Speak started joining a whole different crowd, a whole new audience of people, young people who you might not really see around the literature scene, but they're interested in what is going on there.
Yeah.
And that from that came the Two Cents movement, where the founder attended You We Speak Once, and he decided, wait, this spoken word is a good thing to interact with youth. The Two Cents movement teamed up with the Bocas Lit Fest, started doing secondary school tours in 2013. And that is where spoken word really started to go viral in this kind of way.
Yeah.
So the Two Cents movement brought out a project called 2 Cents for Change on YouTube. People could still check those videos out now, and there's a particular video called Maxi Man Tracking Schoolgirl from Tobagonian poet Crystal Skip.
Yeah.
And when she delivered, it went viral online. And everybody wanted to know, wait, what is this art form? What is this spoken word? And who is this girl? So people started to ask questions. So that was going on at the same time as the school tour. So now the students were seeing what they saw on YouTube live on stage. The students now had the ability to learn the art form through workshops and competitions hosted by the Two Cents movement. Then came the National Slam through our collaboration with the Bocas Lit Fest. And the art form started to grow. Then in the middle of all that, around 2014, I believe, the Free Speech Project began on radio, playing spoken word poems 3 times a day on 3 different radio stations and releasing YouTube videos. So that project, along with what the Two Cents was doing, really set on a national scale and even regional scale, whereby other Caribbean countries are getting very familiar with the art form and reaching out to us for workshops and just developing their own industries doing spoken word. And then it is used a lot for ministry. Many religious groups see it very useful. So now we have spoken word poetry in the church and outside the church, in the schools, in the secondary schools, in universities. And then in 2015, we started doing spoken word in primary schools. So it was all over now. And it was undeniable the impact that it was having. People started to hire artists to do spoken word poetry, television arts, radio arts, different campaigns. And that is really how it blossomed.
Okay. It has grown tremendously, what you are saying, over the years. And are you able to share with us, some of the challenges that the spoken word and the poetry will still have up to this present day after, really getting the public attention as a content, and also what are some of the challenges you will face as a performance poetry person?
Definitely. All the arts face certain challenges in terms of funding. Now, the Two Cents movement and myself, we have been fortunate in a sense, whereby I guess being an organization pioneering something, we were the first to all the funding available to that in a kind of way, I guess.
Yeah.
But definitely the funding will be a challenge. If you're seeking to do the art form itself full time, I left my job at the end of 2014 to do it full time. You will face challenges, especially in this COVID period that has come here. But I always continue to consider myself very blessed with the fact that I was still able to generate different opportunities internationally and locally to continue to generate income at a reasonable rate. Mostly at a rate that didn't dip too much from where things were when we're doing live performances. However, as a spoken word performer, you can't just think of being a performer alone. You have to think of yourself as a business, right? You are that actual business, and within that business, there's an entrepreneur, there's a laborer, there's capital, there's everything flowing through you, and you have to manage that. So the best spoken word artists, the ones that thrive a lot, you realize are the ones who can manage their brand, the ones who could innovate and use the art form to do different things. And you just have to be good at that.
Okay.
Unless you intend to win the National Slam every year and get that money. And that is almost impossible because anybody could win at any year,
Yes. So I just want to go back a little bit there, because you mentioned during your challenges, you were still able to obtain opportunities. Can you share a little bit with us, some of the opportunities you were still able to attain, especially during this COVID period?
Right, a couple major projects that emerged after and during COVID was a project called Borderline Spoken Word Poetry, and that is on my YouTube channel where we release content. And we are able to partner with the University of York in England to do 2 series, right? After we did the first one, they called me back to do another one, so that product should be forthcoming in November. So they use, the grant was very specific to how artists could use the pandemic to come up with creative solutions and creative products. And that is essentially what we did at that point in time. There's also a recent initiative that I started called Cool Creatives, which is actually using an artistic method to facilitate SCA preparation classes. So that is something I'll be launching out even further. I have different skills, video editing and stuff. I've done a lot of video editing with different people, adding poetry to some of their products, etc. And the ability to have all those skills, and that just comes from how I grew up. I worked GIL at that time, I worked construction, I worked air conditioning company. So all these skills that I had over the years, I realized those skills are just able to tap into them now to survive. Right? So people in Larkita and Maloney, I think we have excellent opportunities in terms of the communities that we live, offer very diverse experiences. We have courts, we have the field, we have churches, we have community centers. And once you engage yourself in different things, it might seem useless now, but there will be a point in your life where you'll realize how important all those opportunities actually were. So I'm glad to have those partnerships going on right now. Of course, we still do the writing workshops with the 2 Cents movement, and we're looking to renew our secondary school engagement very soon. So a lot of things on the table. I've still been busy by God's grace, and I am really grateful for that.
Okay. Other than winning the poetry competitions and all these other spoken word competitions, how do you, as a performance poet, define and measure success?
And that's a great question. I always tell people, as a spoken word poet in particular, as a performer who doing creative work, you creating your own work. To me, your question should always be, what message do I want to leave the people with? Right? And that is why I determine my success. If I was able to leave this particular message and it resonated in a certain way, then I know I have done the poem or the performance justice. Right? I find the most creative way to deliver that message. So even if I enter slam and I don't national slam, which is the poetry competition, and I don't win, I know that the poem I would have delivered had the ability to impact somebody in a way beyond the stage. So that is how I measure my success.
Okay. A lot of persons will know Darian, Sandy, the performance poet, but can you give us, some key trait about yourself that persons who are even familiar with you and are unfamiliar with you, can you share something like that with us?
Yeah, no problem. I'm very competitive, as nice as I seem to be. I love a good game of Monopoly. And we when we play Monopoly, we alter the rules. So you could buy jail, you could buy income tax, and it's really a real kind of vibes. I like all fours as well. I love sports. I follow the NBA very closely. I don't follow football as much as I used to. Right? I used to be a football fanatic, but now I'm into the NBA. I have a daughter I love spending time with. I have a wife who's very supportive of me in all my endeavors. And I have a small circle, but very significant people that I could always turn to for advice, just to talk out things one-on-one, etc. I have a very supportive family. My parents, they got exemption late last year, so they are back home now. They were educators abroad, but they're back home in Maloney here now. And essentially, I like to drive. So I drive long distances, sometimes unprovoked once I get the opportunity. And I like spending time alone in a kind of way. You know, I value that ability to just be by yourself sometimes and just engage. I am journeying as well. I always tell people I'm not a perfect person.
Yeah.
You know, I still journeying. I still trying to always keep my head in the path that I know God would want me to go, and I try my best to stay onto that. Of course, you'll have times where you fall back, you'll have down days, up days, everybody. But overall, I do enjoy life a lot. I'm grateful every day to wake up.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, if I die tomorrow or today, I don't mind, because I spend every day enjoying it, making sure that I found something to be happy about in the day.
Yeah, yeah. What has been, outside of the pandemic, what has been your biggest surprise as a performance poet within the past few months to a year? Can you share that with us?
My biggest surprise within the past few months, it would definitely, I guess, it's this new project that I took on now, the Cool Creatives.
Yeah.
Because when I started up, I told my wife and I told a few of my close friends, I said, I just looking for 10 people and I good, you know, because one, I wasn't expecting so many people to want that product so close to SCA. I really just wanted to test the product as a prototype first, see how useful it is, and then launch it out fully.
Yeah.
With the improvements, etc. But I was really surprised at how people online school causing a lot of people to suffer, a lot of children and parents. So I guess providing an alternative to the traditional online school, because we're still online, but providing an alternative, I wasn't expecting it to be so impactful, right? And the amount of people that have registered so far, I'm constantly reworking the groups. So I will just be teaching almost 24/7 from next week.
Okay.
So good thing this podcast is this week.
Yes, yes.
So I'm very grateful though. I'm very grateful for that kind of response.
So one of your methods of improving as a person, continue to learn as a performance poet. Is it safe to say teaching, or there are other things that bring out that element in you?
I guess as my parents were educators, I fulfill the role as an educator, because even before this, I used to be teaching spoken word poetry to old people, middle-aged, teens, children, right? And adjusting to the different crowds was always something interesting that I used to.
That's how you continue to learn.
Yeah, I continue to learn through the teaching of it. Yeah. Every time you meet a different audience, you learn something new.
Okay. We're going to get a little deeper into the podcast now. Can you share with us any advice you will give to your 16-year-old self, or had you had any regrets, up to this point, or are you satisfied with the person you have become and becoming?
I generally try to live without regrets. I know that things are lessons. Every downside is a lesson, and it's up to you to be humble enough to take the lesson from the things that you would have experienced.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate that I wouldn't consider anything very dire has ever happened to me in my life in terms of loss and that kind of debilitating sadness. I don't think I've experienced that, but I'm able to prepare for it in such a way whereby I know that whatever my lot, as the hymn say, everything will be well with my soul eventually.
Yeah.
So that is the advice I would give to people if I had to. Yeah.
Okay. At the start of our session, you mentioned the inception of poetry, where it started, and there are great history attached to poetry with regards to the Black Power movement. With that rich history, what are some of the things that most people misunderstand about being a performance poet, a spoken word artist? What are some of the things?
In the beginning, people thought that spoken word poetry was just for Afro-Trinbagonians, African males with a loud voice.
Right.
And that is something that has been dispelled, especially through our primary school competitions, where we have a high level of East Indians entering. Right? It's almost equal East Indians and Africans. And that just comes along with carrying the art form in different schools, different demographics, right? Mm-hmm. So that was something that people thought we were just angry Black youth. Angry Black youth shouting. People don't understand a spoken word poem could be light and humorous. People don't understand a spoken word poem could be about something that most people might not even consider insignificant. For example, Seth Sylvester placed first in the semifinals writing about an encounter with a rat in his dorm room. You know, so it's storytelling.
Yes.
Storytelling, people. And people have to realize our stories, our lives carry many different stories and rich stories as well.
Yeah. Is it safe to say that being a performance poet or a spoken word artist give you a greater sense of belonging or a greater sense of self?
For sure. I think I found myself through spoken word poetry. Being exposed to so many different things, sometimes you could become a chameleon in terms of you just adjust to whatever, and you don't really find yourself. I think spoken word gave me that foundation to really understand what I wanted to do in life in a very, very clear way. Okay. You know, I remember making that decision around 2014. You know, what exactly, this is what I'll be doing, and this is the way I'm going to go about doing it, and I'm going to give it my all. So, for sure,
Yes. Spoken word is global, as you said. The York University in the United Kingdom, you know, in collaboration or in contact, it's throughout Trinidad and Tobago in the primary school, the secondary schools, and it's very safe to say and assuring to say that you are, let's say, one of the leading persons in spoken word. So definitely you will be a mentor. Definitely you will be someone that youth and even adults will look up to. What advice would you give to specifically the youth or young girl or young boy who is, I want to be like Darian Sandy, you know, I want to be able to command the stage just like him. I want to be able to go in depth just like him. What advice would you give to them?
Well, for poets that now starting off, my advice is always read as much as you can, listen to as many poems as you can. Plenty of people think spoken word is just something you could rattle off. Yes, you could just rattle it off, but what will give you the edge over people is the ability to expand your linguistic range and just your word density. You have a lot of words, you're able to rhyme, you're able to reference different historical things, and just having a rich base to draw metaphor from is critical. So reading, I encourage you to read, and it's easy to tell the poets that are well-read from poets that are not. Well, for the trained, I guess, or for any academic ear, it's easy to tell, hey, this is spoken word, but this person is rich, has a rich literary background. Okay. So I encourage all poets to do that because that is really what separates you.
Okay. Being a performance poet, is there a specific, maybe, you know, like in sports, they will have academies or they will have clubs. You can go at 5 years, you can go at 4 years. Is that similar with regards to becoming or pursuing to be a performance poet?
No. Most of the things that I did, it was self-taught or random workshops. You just have to kind of keep your ear on the ground in the different spaces to attend different workshops. But it's not something you could study in school. The closest thing you could do to that is a theater arts degree, which will give you a lot of fundamentals in performance and a rich background in the history of performing. And you could always figure out how that relates to spoken word. There are a few spoken word poetry theses that exists, Kwame Weeks, Julie Pern, some of these things you could find on the internet. You could read a lot of books about it, but it's definitely, you'll just have to put in the work and keep your ears out for workshops. 2 cents as a once per month free writing workshop called We Write. So people could access that as well. But it's primarily self-taught, and you just have to continue to grow by exposing yourself to different things.
Okay, and that will go to adults and children also.
Adults and children.
Okay. We are at part of Success Talks where you have 5 quick-fire questions, and you have 3 seconds to answer these questions. Are you ready?
I hope so. I didn't read the questions before I send them. I wanted to be surprised.
Nice. So, what meal you can eat every day of the week?
It had to be lasagna.
Lasagna. Okay. If you have the opportunity to have dual citizenship other than your native country, what will it be?
Tobago. That's a joke. London.
London.
Yeah, London. England.
Okay. Yeah. When it's safe to travel once again, what country you are going to first? You're going to pack up the family, so you go to this country.
Anguilla, because I was supposed to go there for the Lit Fest in 2020, and then it got postponed, and 2021 got postponed, so I owe myself an Anguilla trip for sure to the Lit Fest there.
So you are a fully established and recognized, and you are sung with being a performance poet and a spoken word genius, I will say. If you were not doing along that career path, what will you be doing at this point?
I'd be teaching. Yeah, I'd be teaching.
Any specific subject or?
English A, English B, and general vibes. And I'll be the vibes teacher. I teach in vibes.
Okay. 5th and final question. So we understand he's a performance poet. We understand all these things about Darian Sandy. What are some of the secret skills and talent you possess that is not known to the public?
I play basketball, defense, and I can edit videos.
Okay, great. I really thank you for coming on to the Success Talks podcast. We appreciate the work that you continue to do for Trinidad and Tobago to raise awareness with regards to person becoming more aware of themselves and what they want to become in life. And we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And we look forward to having you back on in the future. Hopefully, we can get the pandemic to a safe point where we can have you in person and go even deeper into the questions today.
All right, thanks very much. And you keep up the good work and continue doing things on your platform. Really appreciate it being here.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in to Success Talks, the podcast. Activate your mind powers. You are unstoppable. Only you can stop you.